Assalamu alaikum. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up? What's up? What it do, man? Glad to finally catch up with y'all.
Yeah, it's been too long. It's been too long. I haven't seen
What's
Desmond in
up, boy?
about a year now. I got a
You
whole
know,
solo channel.
Look like you need a little sun, Desmond. I don't remember you. Look like last time I saw you, you looked a little darker, man.
The guy
it's that
living on the
backlight,
island got
man.
lighter.
No, it's these studio lights got me looking like I've
Oh,
seen the
okay, okay,
stars.
sure.
Yeah, we
We'll
know who
blame
was
it on that.
outside. We know who was outside and who wasn't.
Oh, all right. What do we got today, guys?
All right. So, as we know, the purpose of this stream today, it's not about proving or disproving Christianity or Islam or any religion.
Right, right,
And people often think that they're answering questions when they're really protecting their identity. And
right.
tonight is not a debate, it's a conversation about how discussions break down. And
Mm.
one of the reasons why I wanted to talk specifically to you guys is because you tend to get into a lot of debates. And
Yeah, naturally.
I'm not Muslim, I'm actually Christian. And a lot of your debates come down to Christianity versus Islam. And a lot of the things you say make sense and they're factual, but you get a lot of pushback from
Oh yeah.
Christians.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I find it entertaining because I'm just a seeker of knowledge. I just want to know. I don't care who's right. I don't care who's wrong. I just want to know. I just want to know the truth. I just want to know facts. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation today. So, pretty much, we just want to see where talking about communication patterns break down and not really attacking beliefs. And for everyone that's listening, the goal isn't to win, it's just to understand.
Yeah, yeah. So real quick, I'll introduce myself to your audience in case they're curious as to who these goofy people are. Uh, my name is Matt. I go by Akal online. Uh, I am one half of Akal and Knuckle, the podcast. I am Muslim. Both my parents were Muslim. I was more or less raised Muslim, uh, but I had my own spiritual journey, as a lot of us do, in my early 20s, where I had to kind of leave the religion to find it for myself. Right? It wasn't enough to just follow what my parents had taught me. I had to kind of go back and see what do I believe. Starting from uh, just starting from the basics, I guess you could say, from first principles. Uh, and personally, I'm more of a logician, so I had to look at everything logically. That's what akal actually means is, the reasoning, the mind that does the reasoning. And for me, it was just a matter of what the truth is. Regardless of what the truth is, that's what I want to follow. And after doing that, I kind of just went my own way. I just kind of started doing my own thing and walking the path. And I had a friend ask me one day why I didn't talk about Islam. He asked if I believed it was true, and I said yeah. He said, "Well, why don't you talk about it?" And I said, "I don't know. I just don't want to make people feel weird. I don't want to, make people uncomfortable." He was like, "But you believe it's true?" And I said, "Yeah." He was like, "And if you're right and we don't believe in it, we're going to hell, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And he was like, "Well, then if you care about us, wouldn't you tell us about it?" And I said, "You got me there. I should be telling you guys about it." And so that's what I'm doing now. And I focus more on Christians and Christianity because, one, that's what most people believe in the area where I live. And then two, I see Christians as not only the closest to me in beliefs as far as other religions go, but I also see them as, or I see the most sincere believers that I have come across, and just in general, they tend to be Christians. And there's not many of them, just across the board, I'll be honest. No matter what religion I don't come across many sincere believers in general, personally. But when I do, I tend to find them outside of Islam. I find them in Christianity. And so that's why I focus on trying to help my brothers and sisters in Christianity to just reason with me and come to an agreement. But as you said, when I do that, we often come to the point where discussions break down because it does become more of a tribal issue or an identity issue. But I'll let Desmond come in and introduce himself as well.
What's up, people? I go by Nako, aka Damadez, aka Hecklefish, aka your girl's favorite homeboy. And in terms of this podcast, let me just tell you guys, Nako is knowledge revealed, or just like a conveyance or copying or seeing knowledge come at you and understanding it. So my kind of focus when I joined this podcast and joined Matthew in this discovery of truth is my first step was just to absorb, or not my first step, but my main step was to absorb the knowledge and kind of take it all in. I had already come from a Christian background, but as you absorb the knowledge, you'll realize that the knowledge depends on who's telling you the knowledge in terms of how it's conveyed. And so after years and years of Christian studies, I saw that the whole picture wasn't being told to me, and Matthew had always been, and his family too had been an Islamic family that I had admired just for a few various reasons: home cooked meals, a level of communication between the parents and the children, etc. But then you go to mosque and such, and you see Islam for itself, and you recognize some truths in it. And so when I came into this podcast, it was to see, is this the actual truth? And so for after a few months of digesting Matthew's meticulous notes, it caused somebody like me who comes from a Christian background to be like, damn, these Christians can be embarrassing if you ask them or try to talk to them about this. And so
not all of them. I do want not all of them.
Yeah, no, definitely not all of them, but the loudest ones, I should say. Ones that get the attention or tend to be a bit flippant and not really know exactly what they're talking about in a lot of ways. So I decided to keep my mouth shut and just learn more and take in more knowledge. And so that's what I'm here for, is to learn and then decipher this truth. But what I've learned in doing so is half of learning is listening, if not 75% of it.
And
So
do
I'm
you
a lot
consider
higher.
yourself Christian or Muslim?
Nah, I would consider myself a truth seeker, a little more spiritual.
Mhm.
He's
I
a fence sitter.
I wouldn't say I'm a
Uh-huh.
fence sitter. I value the good in Islam, in Christianity, in Buddhism, in Sikhism. I don't think I sit on the fence so much as I watch from the fences.
So on Judgment Day, on Judgment Day, when they ask you straight up, hey, you rolling with Muhammad or you rolling with Jesus?
I might have to go over there with Buddha, bro. I'm probably gonna go over there with the Buddhas, quite frankly.
Oh my
Because at the
goodness.
end of the day,
They're heaven for
they're
a Buddha.
No,
they're the only ones.
Buddhism isn't really a religion. There's no God really in Buddhism. It's just it is a way of life, and so it competes with Islam as far as way of life. But you won't find anything in Buddhism that conflicts with Islam as a way of life.
So I guess Buddhists are almost like a free agent, almost like a free spirit kind of
Not a
shit.
free agent so much as it acknowledges the spirit in us all. Something that Islam or Christianity won't do definitively for all humans.
That's a discussion for another day, Desmond.
So
That's what we're here for.
So for anyone who just came in, this is what avoidance sounds like when it's live. So just for people who are just walking in, if you're just joining us, here's the core idea. So
Yeah, and he's got the cross around his neck. So,
All right. So for everyone who's just joining in, all right, tonight's not a debate. It's a conversation about why discussions, especially about beliefs, so often break down. We're talking about
hmm
communication patterns. We're not
Mm,
attacking anyone's faith. Right?
yeah, because it goes
alhamdulillah.
beyond religion, right? You could experience this at work, right? Your job your boss may not want to give you explicit expectations. He's or he calls you in or she calls you in and is complaining about something. He's like, well, what did I do wrong? And they can't explicitly tell you what you did wrong, but they want you to do better somehow. Or maybe in a relationship where uh, you try and ask your significant other about something and they bounce around giving you anything but the answer that you asked for. So yeah, it goes way beyond religion. That's why this isn't really like a religious debate, but we will be using some examples from religion to kind of go through this phenomena.
All right. Cool. Cool. So I have here in my notes, I wrote that people often think that they're answering questions when they're actually protecting their identity.
hmm
How does that, how does that happen with you? Because I see a lot that you get into a lot of debates and you ask straightforward questions, and then you guys end up in an identity battle instead of just because I just want to know the answer, and it takes a
Right.
long
Yeah.
answers when I'm watching your debates.
Yeah. It can be very frustrating when you just want an answer and the person refuses to. Um, to to give you it in a nutshell, I take that as the answer, right? If you can't give me an answer, to me, that is an answer. That tells me that you don't know why you believe what you believe, which is exactly what we're unpacking here. Is that it's an identity issue. It's you trying to protect your ego, for lack of a better term. I'm sure Knuckle will like that one. Um, but an answer explains why something is true. And I feel like instead, what I get a lot of is merely telling me or people telling me what they believe instead of telling me why it's true. Right? Just a lot of repetitive assertions, right? Over and over and over again. This is what it is. Well, why is it true? And how is it true if X, Y, and Z contradict that? And then we get the typical avoidance maneuvers, deflection, personal attacks, evasion, anything but dealing with the issue and the logic. And for me, those are glaring red flags. I myself, I would not be a Muslim today if I went to Muslims and asked them questions that, hey, in this religion, this doesn't make sense to me because of X, Y, and Z. And they just said, well, it's just true and you have to believe it or something's wrong with you. That would completely turn me off from the religion. And if they gave me a big word salad where they just threw a whole bunch of words together that sound impressive and sound reassuring, but lack any true substance, again, that will be a red flag for me because I don't want to be placated. I want to understand. And if I can't turn around and explain it to somebody in my own words, then I don't understand it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you feel like Islam, you can get actual answers to your questions, but that may not be the same in Christianity. Is that what you're saying?
Without pointing fingers at Christians, yeah, I mean that is the reality of it, and it's not like I said. This isn't something that's specific to religion or specific to Christianity within religion, but there's if we're just talking about the issue that like I had with the most recent conversation I had on my channel with the Christian, um, is yeah, it's a lack of answers, and let's actually pause on that last interaction I had. Let's go back a little further to another interaction I had with Pastor Tremaine and and Brandon. Right when they came on and they were talking to me, they weren't as evasive, not nearly. In fact, there was hardly any evasion. They made every attempt to address my concerns and give me an answer from the text. And it was very direct. There was no waffling about Old Testament when I was talking about New Testament. It was very straightforward. But what we ended up coming to is the appeal to mystery, right? Once they hit a point where they couldn't go any further, it was like, I don't have answers, then the appeal to mystery comes in. And to me, the problem with that from a religious perspective is once you appeal to mystery, you remove, well, this is kind of a deep topic, so I'll try and just keep it surface level, but you basically collapse all competing religions that you disagree with onto the same epistemic level as your own. Right? If you have to appeal to mystery, then why should I believe in this mystery over that mystery? Both are mysteries. Neither one makes sense. What makes this one true and that one not true? How am I supposed to differentiate between your religion and this religion if it's all just a mystery? Right? So that's another issue that comes up with not having an answer.
But can I slow you down for 1 second?
Yeah, of course.
If someone doesn't understand something, so when does mystery become like a show of humility versus replacing that as an explanation?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Where it's humility is when it's not something that is necessary for your salvation, right? If we're talking about a religion, right, and you have to believe that the moon is made out of cheese in order to get to paradise, and you see that the moon is not made out of cheese. You see moon rocks, you have samples. You actually, let's say you're an astronaut. You go up there and you're actually studying it hands-on. And like, this is not cheese, right? So why should I believe that? And then they say, well, it's just a mystery. Well, then how is it fair for God to judge me or punish me for not believing this when it doesn't make sense in the first place? I can't tell the difference between this and what this other religion that says the moon is made out of, chalk, right? One religion saying this, the other one saying that. Neither one can be confirmed, but they're both saying appealing to mystery instead of giving you a reason to believe it. How can, let's say one of those religions is true, how can God then be just in punishing me for not believing the truth if it was indistinguishable from falsehood? Right? It has to be, you have to be able to differentiate in order for it to be held accountable.
Okay. So should mystery like sit at the edge of understanding or at the center?
Definitely at the edge, right? Like if it's something like knowing how God is eternal, right? A human may not be able to fully wrap their head around what eternality looks like in practice, right? Infinity is not something that the human brain is really equipped well to comprehend. But that's not a central doctrine, right? You don't have to understand what infinity is to accept that God does not have a beginning. God always was, right? And so when the mystery is on the peripherals, when it's on the outskirts of understanding, right? When you hit that limit, that's what it should be, is a limit. Like I'm going out. Okay, I can't go any further. But the stuff that's out here isn't necessary for me to be saved, then it's not an issue. But when it's your core doctrines, where you have to start from mystery in order to accept any of the rest of it, then it becomes an issue. Then it becomes, like I said, indistinguishable. I'll give you an analogy if I can, right? I'm sure we've all been through this before. We all have black moms, and black moms have a very specific way about them, right? Let's say you're 12, 13 years old, and your mom tells you to go downstairs and take the trash bag from the kitchen and put it in the dumpster. You go downstairs, you find two identical trash bags tied up in front of the door. You grab them both, you take them outside, you put them in the trash can. All right, you go about your day, you're playing video games. Hours later, your mom comes in with the shoe or the flip-flop or the hanger or whatever your mom's weapon of choice was, and she starts beating you with it. And you're like, what did I do wrong? and she says, you threw out my collectibles that I had sitting in that trash bag downstairs. And you're like, well, how was I supposed to know that there was a trash bag full of collectibles when it's in a trash bag and it's right next to a bag of trash, right? I just did what you told me to do. I didn't know. I couldn't distinguish between the two bags. There wasn't a note on it. You didn't give me a warning. You just told me to go take the trash out, and I went downstairs and took what looked like trash and put it in the trash can, right? How can she be just in punishing you or being upset with you for not being able to distinguish between two things that are identical? So it has to be, it can't be the core differentiator between punishment and salvation as far as the mystery goes. It has to be something that's peripheral, that isn't going to affect your afterlife.
So, Knuckle, aka your homeboy's girlfriend, you heard what Akko just said, right? In simple terms, what does that look like to you? Like, for me, somebody hearing this for the first time, like, what does that mean to you in like simple terms? I'm just trying to get a better understanding for the audience.
Honestly, I couldn't break it down any simpler. I was a bit confused.
Well, if it was too high level, let's use some real examples, right?
Please.
In Islam, God is one, right? He is completely and absolutely one. Is that hard to understand?
I'm following so far.
Is there anything mysterious about that?
It's clear so far.
It's clear. God is one. You have to believe that God is one to get to paradise, right? That's a central, foundational, core tenet of Islam. You have to believe that God is one. Okay? Christianity, God is tripersonal. He's a tri-unity. He's a compound one. He's three different who's, but one what. And when you start to ask questions about how that makes sense, right? Because perfect example right here on the screen. We are three who's and we are one what. The one what is human. The three hues are Akal, Nakal, and Malachi, right? But we aren't one person, or we aren't one human. We're three humans. But if we were Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, all of a sudden we don't become three gods. We're one God. And you ask for, oh, what's the symmetry breaker? Why am I counting differently for this versus that? Right? And they will say, it's God. Basically, they'll go into special pleading, right? It has to be that this is just God. But really what they're doing is they're taking what they already believe and they're asserting it without any actual rationalization behind it. And when you press them and say, well, this doesn't make sense, then in comes the appeal to mystery. God's ways are higher than ours. We can't fully comprehend God, right?
Or is it that you don't see the rationale of that?
Rationale of what?
Of there being a mysterious element beyond our understanding.
Well,
if that's
that again is not addressing the issue. The issue is where that mystery is. If it's at the center of what I have to believe in order to be saved, then this religion becomes indistinguishable from Hinduism. Hinduism has a trimurti, right? Three gods that make up this one thing, right? Why should I believe in Christianity versus Hinduism?
You can't dilute Hinduism into a...
I'm just giving an example. I'm not doing a full breakdown of Hinduism. Why should I believe in Christianity over Hinduism?
Because they are distinct religions.
They're distinct. I didn't ask why is there a difference. I said, why should I believe in Christianity over Hinduism? Why is Christianity true and Hinduism false?
Because those distinctions resonate with you better or more closely.
That's not how truth works. Truth is objective. It's not what you feel, because everyone's going to feel something different. Hindus feel that Hinduism is correct. So whose feelings are right?
Well, don't we have evidence of like Christian prophets that have like prophesized and like done great works?
Yes and no. We have history that we have evidence that certain people or figures may have existed. What we don't have is a way of confirming the narrative surrounding those people. So basically, it's like in a thousand years, if someone digs up a Spider-Man comic and they see descriptions of New York and they go and they find archaeological evidence that New York was a real place, we have that for Christianity, but we don't have, the story like for the Spider-Man. We don't have confirmation that there's someone got bit by a radioactive spider and was swinging around on those buildings. So we have evidence of physical things existing. What we don't have is evidence of the complete narrative, at least no more so than we do for Hinduism.
But wouldn't that be true for anything? I feel like we could say that about anything in history.
A lot of things would fall into this category. The way that history is done is basically we take account of records of what people are saying, right? We take what's the word? Testimony, right? And when something's multiply attested, it becomes stronger. And we have what we call the historical critical method, is how we would go about determining what's probably true and what's probably not true. Historians don't deal in absolutes. They'll give you a history book that says this happened, but if evidence ever comes up that it's wrong, they'll say, okay, cool, let's change it. No, it's not like they're stuck on this. It's not like it has to be this way. They follow the evidence that's available to them, but primarily they just take what people are saying and then they weigh it on a scale based upon their criteria of how probable it was that it actually happened. That's why historians affirm the crucifixion and reject the resurrection. There's the exact same evidence for both of them, but they reject one and they accept one because one, based upon their criteria, they consider to be probable, and the other they consider to be improbable.
Okay.
So to kind of answer my own question, there is no way to, based upon feelings, for me to determine between Christianity and Hinduism, right? If I was born into a Hindu culture, I'm more likely to be a Hindu. If I'm born into a Christian culture, I'm more likely to be a Christian, right? And if that is the way that people are saved or damned, then again, that calls into question the justice of the judgment. How am I being judged for being born in the wrong place in the wrong time, right? There has to be some way of differentiating between the two. But I don't want this to turn to a whole, thing about Christianity. I wasn't trying to put Christianity on the spot.
Something just came to me. Why is this important? Has anyone ever asked you, why is it important? Like, as far as which religion that people choose, like, isn't religion pretty much like a way of life? That
it is a way of life. Yeah. Religion is a way of life.
If I'm Christian and everything doesn't really make sense, or if I'm Muslim and I think my religion is better, or if I'm Hindu or Buddhist, like, why is this even important?
It comes down to truth, right? I believe in something called objective truth. I believe when I put my hand behind my back and hold up numbers, that those numbers don't change based upon somebody looking at them. There is objectively 2 fingers up behind my back. You may feel like it's 3. He may feel like it's 5, but it's 2, right? Whether we're aware of it or not, I believe that the truth is the truth. And if we break it all the way down to whether or not God exists, once you believe that God exists, I do have several arguments for just rationalizing God on his own. It's not personally why I believe in God, but I do have those arguments. Once you establish that God exists, the next step is to ask yourself, or to posit what he wants, right? Or why he created you. I guess that's a better way to put it. Why did God create you? Once you accept that he exists. And once you are looking for why he created you, the only possible way to know why he created you is for him to tell you. There's no other way. The phone can't know why it was created unless there's some way for the creator to communicate to the phone. This is why I made you, right? And so you have to start looking for evidence of God communicating with us and telling us why we were made. And then you come down to a few religions that claim God has been communicating with us, right? And this isn't a one-off thing. This is something that we can trace through time. This is a consistent thing. People have always believed that God has been communicating with us. And so you then have to break down the evidence from what's clear, from what's wrapped in mystery, right? And that is when it becomes important, because what we see from these claims, the most prominent claims, the most recurring themes, is what we would call the day of judgment. There comes a time after your passing where you will be judged based upon your deeds. If this is true, you can't afford to ignore it, because these are real consequences. If you told me that I was going to have to spend the rest, let's say I'm going to live until I'm 75 years old. I'm 35 now. That means I have 40 years left. If you told me I had to spend those 40 years in a jail cell, or I could spend those 40 years in Hawaii, I would have a preference. I care about which one that is. And that's just 40 years. But what these religions are saying is that it's not 40 years, it's eternity. It's a lot longer than 40 years. So it becomes infinitely more important to me to get this right if I want to make sure that I'm not getting put into a jail cell for eternity.
So, is it fair to criticize someone for asking questions that are declared unanswerable, like the Trinity example that you brought up earlier when you was talking about how Father, Son, Holy Ghost?
Right.
If someone just doesn't have an answer for that, but let's say there's like some inner knowledge, like how some people don't necessarily have an answer for why God is real, but they have like an inner knowing that there's a higher power. And it
But
kind
that
of
doesn't
seems
mean
like
that
you
no answer
criticize that.
exists when it comes to the God existing, right? If someone believes in God without having the same, I would say, epistemic threshold that other people, or criteria that other people are asking for. Let's say someone, because children intuit God. There's been studies done that show that kids are basically born believing in God. I'll put God in quotes because it's not like they're born believing in a specific ideation of God, but they believe in a higher being. They're born with that innate acceptance, right? But when we get older, we begin to ask questions, especially as we go through life and other ideas are presented to us. That is where we start to challenge our own beliefs, or where a lot of us start to challenge our own beliefs. Why do I believe this is true? And depending on where you are in the world and how you've been kind of affected by society, you may take that journey seriously, or you may think it's kind of not important right now. You may be more interested in, I don't know, getting women, getting money, having fun, whatever it is.
Paul Henderson asks, what is truth? And yet his question is, who is truth?
What truth is I would say it is something that corresponds with reality, right? What truth is that which exists, either physically exists or conceptually exists. And when we say who is truth, that could be interpreted a number of ways. That's a kind of a question that lacks specificity, and maybe that's intentional. So you're only going to get my rendition of that. But I would say who truth is Allah. Allah is Al-Haq. That's one of his names, the truth. The only truth, honestly. If you really want to dive into it, I don't really promote Sufism, but there are some thinkers that where Sufism comes from.
So my audience, we're not very familiar with a lot of religious doctrine. What is Sufism? I've never heard that term.
Sufism is like kind of the mystical side of Islam. It's kind of like Kabbalah for Judaism, or I'm not sure I know the Christian version of that. Maybe it would be I don't think it's the Gnostics, but I don't know. But basically, sorry, what did you say?
They have monastic
Monasticism?
orders in Christianity. That would
Well, yeah. So Sufism is like, I don't know if you've ever. Well, Sufis. It's complicated.
like the
It's
monk,
complicated.
like the
Um,
Super Saiyan or the steroid versions of the religion. I would say, like the
you said
monks.
the steroid version.
Yeah, they just take it all the way to not necessarily to the extreme so much as like they
They do
live it.
take certain
They
things
live
to
it
the
to the
extreme.
So
fullest.
let me see if I'm understanding this. So like you know how some Muslims would like get on a plane and crash into a building like a suicide bomber. You saying that would be like the
Allegedly, no, those wouldn't be those wouldn't be Sufis doing that.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
was
completely
Israel.
different.
Let's be real.
This
This is
isn't
the
just
truth.
our channel right now.
Oh,
uh, but yeah, so Sufism would be, I don't know if you've ever seen those people who are like spinning in a circle. Muslim, they have like a kind of a hat on that's kind of tall and it's flat on top, and then they spin and their clothes spin out in a circle, and they're kind of like, they're called whirling dervishes. That's those, they consider themselves to be Sufis, but what Sufism actually isn't that, and that's why I said it's complicated, because you have what Sufism today comes from, and that I think is what I'm more talking about, is like teachers like Ibn Arabi, um, who would probably not associate with what we see in Sufism today. But it's just more of a very spiritual side of Islam. Um,
yeah,
the point of what I'm trying to say though is that there are some teachings in there, right? That I don't really, I don't know. It's kind of like I said, it's just complicated. But let's put the labels aside for a second and just focus on the content.
okay.
Um, it is a way of looking at reality to kind of put things in perspective. If you see God, you see Allah as the only thing that actually exists, right? The visual I like to use is that of like a light or a projector, right? If you, let's play shadow puppets, right? Everybody remembers that game. You take a flashlight, you point it at the wall, you put your hand in front, you make a little bunny or whatever it is, and you move it around, right? Allah is like that light, right? He's the only thing that actually exists. When you're looking at the wall, the shadow doesn't actually exist. What exists is the light. Blocking the light creates the illusion of something that exists. And that is what we consider to be reality, but it's all just an illusion, right? So that would be my answer to who is truth, is that it is Allah is the truth. He is al-Haq. Everything else is dependent upon him, like that shadow is dependent upon the light to exist.
I was watching another one of your debates, and you asked a gentleman to prove what he was saying with the scripture.
Yeah.
And as soon as you asked him that, it's like you guys got into almost like personal attacks. And why do people
Let's.
experience questions as personal attacks?
I would have to know exactly what point you were talking about in the video. I can
Man,
pull it up real quick
yeah,
for you.
please.
1 second. Let me see. Oops. Yeah, let's bring this over here.
while he pulls that up, I think it has something to do with just the general ego that some people have, and
You
if
can't be
you're not,
trying, my God.
yeah, if you're not a humble spirit, if somebody asks you to prove something or makes you tries to question your integrity, the first step is defensiveness, and then a lot of times people's method of being defensive is personal attacks.
And I think that's usually where the moment where conversations end is when people
They
get
they
defensive.
certainly can in there. Yeah. So here, let me.
Clint made a
Oops.
point on Facebook. He said people experience questions as attacks, as defense mechanisms. So kind of
Yeah,
echoing what.
that's exactly right. It's because they, again, it's not about truth for them. They haven't actually done the work to actually understand or have evidence for why what they believe is true. And that's also true. You made another good point that sometimes the question implies an insult, and that is
And actually,
absolutely
real
true.
talk, especially coming
Absolutely
from you,
true.
Matthew. with all
I
disrespect.
I don't know,
reject this.
man.
I
I've
reject
seen
this
some of
slander.
your debates, man. They sound like an insult when you ask
Hey,
your
I
What?
love
Give
you,
me
bro.
one example.
You
We
don't
about to
tag
see.
me.
Play the clip. We're about to see.
All right, bet.
I'm gonna call it out when I see it. Right there, insult. Right there.
All right, let me
Thanks for
present
watching, Big
this.
Papa Page.
Share screen. There we go. I don't know if I can. Let's see. Add this up here. Will it matter if I do
Yeah,
that?
this
Okay, there we
gentleman.
go.
Yeah, I respect him for coming on. I remember him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, respect for coming on, but whew, man, never mind. Let's just leave it at that. Respect for coming on.
Nah, man, I think you should have gave that man a chance to respond instead of filibustering him. Even if what he was saying was
If you can point to
cockaboo.
one point where I filibustered, I will give you $100.
Play the video.
You heard that chat?
Hello, sir. You're on the stage. What's up? Is
What's
the
up,
audio
man? How you
coming
doing?
through? I'm good.
Yeah.
Little hoarse.
All right, let me
All
mute
good.
myself.
Yeah. I just got here.
You can fast
I
forward
was doing
about like
something
2
else, and I
minutes.
was about to
Please.
go offline.
And actually hear what we have to say.
No problem.
So one that I've been. So real quick, this is where I'm gonna break down the Christian trilemma. But I'll do it real quick here so we can skip that. It's basically a logical analysis of the text, where we look at the differences between the teachings of Paul, the teachings of Jesus and the disciples, and then we're left with three possibilities. If Jesus and the disciples are saying that salvation depends on the law, not exclusively, but that is a prerequisite to salvation, and Paul is saying that salvation is solely dependent upon faith apart from works, these two teachings cannot coexist. They cannot be reconciled. And so we have to come to one of three conclusions. Either A, Jesus chose the wrong disciples, right? The people he handpicked and taught and sent out into the world failed to deliver his message appropriately, and he had to fix the situation with Paul. B, Jesus intentionally taught two different theologies to two different groups, knowing full well, since he's God, or since Christians believe they're God, he's God, knowing that it would create confusion, right? So he intentionally sowed the seeds of confusion by teaching two different contradictory theologies. Or C, and these three all depend on you accepting Paul as being true. Or C, Jesus was not great at communication, or he was so difficult to comprehend and understand that even the people who were there and present with him did not fully grasp what he was saying. And so we're kind of left in limbo, not knowing who got it right because it was impossible to know.
Or D.
What's D?
D is that the revelation has evolved. The text is a living document that evolved as the New Testament came, as sacrifices came, as Jesus came, etc.
So no, that can't be true, but we'll address that later because that's not what we're here for. Okay, so let's jump ahead and get into this. Why that Jesus gave one theology to the disciples.
That's going in and out.
You it this distinction or this contradiction to go into, and he could be talking. Five would be one misrepresented when I just read what they wrote in the Bible. Then you're more than welcome to point that out. Say, oh, you actually misunderstood this. You're missing this. Whatever context you think I'm missing, feel free to bring it.
So you quoted Romans and 9 and
Muhammad
Romans 10,
speed
9
to
and 10, right? That if you confess Christ, believe in your heart, God raised him from the dead, that you shall be saved.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that entail? You said that also that Christ taught not to obey the law, but then
no, the other way around. Christ taught to obey the law,
but the disciples taught not to obey.
No, the disciples also taught to obey the law.
Paul did not.
Exactly.
Okay.
He teaches that you don't have to obey the law.
All right. So
he actually teaches that obeying the law removes the benefit of Christ altogether. If you follow the law, Christ is of no benefit to you.
So, again, that's you're misapplying that reading. What Paul is saying.
What put it on the screen for you.
Are you looking at Galatians?
Galatians 5 would be one example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't want to do this injustice because I guess your listeners would need a more in-depth.
All right, real quick. So the minute he knows that I know the scripture, that I'm going to point to the scripture that contradicts him, notice he immediately starts backpedaling and saying, well, I don't want to do this injustice. Maybe we should talk about this another time. All right. Even though I'm not rushing him at all, I haven't given him a time limit. He's already trying to kind of avoid the issue here. Paul Henderson, Back to Life, 1245. Where do you see contradicts in the scriptures? We can get to that later. This stream is not about this right here. What we're really talking about here is the breakdown in communication. Why questions are perceived as attacks, and why it's important to be able to answer a question of why you believe what you believe without attacking anyone's beliefs specifically right now. Like maybe at some other time on my channel you can join us and we can have that discussion. I'd be happy to talk, but I don't want to take over his stream with religious debates because he's more about positivity. All right, let's continue.
Discussion.
Can I make a quick
PSA
regarding that?
Sorry, say it again.
Can I make a quick sidebar? 10 seconds.
Yeah, go for it.
Speaking of the positivity, man, some of your latest shorts have been really poignant, and I think speaks to a generation. The stuff you're saying, helping people get unstuck and just like seeing their value. I think that's more invaluable than you even realize. Keep doing that, brother.
Thank you, man. I just want to be the smile maker, and I want to recruit as many smile makers as I can.
Yeah, Malachi, he's the OG at making people smile, man. This guy has been funny since I met him. All right, let's jump back in.
Because I think you were trying to, or you were about to sign off when I came on. So how about this? Just to, again, this is the first time I'm hearing your assertions, so I will back and listen to them, and we'll delve into it when we have more time, because truly I'm hearing your agreements for the first time. And again, I need to kind of flush out everything you're saying so I can give you an adequate answer, because I believe what you're saying is that we as Christians would never give an answer to the questions you ask. I don't just want to flippantly say something, but no, based on what you've asked me, it's going to be a more detailed Old Testament, New Testament to give you an adequate answer.
Sure. You know what? That's really fine. I'm willing to take the time today, but if you want to go and come back, no problem there. But I do want to stick to the New Testament, because part of the issue that I'm seeing is that, and this is natural, I think, for most people of any faith, is they take their beliefs and then retroactively apply them to the text, right? If you believe, if you've been taught your entire Christian life that Jesus and Paul are in agreement, then you're going to read Jesus' words through a Pauline filter. And I think that's where a lot of people unintentionally, they kind of sneak in assumptions, and they kind of do a bit of begging the question where they assume the conclusion that they're trying to prove in their premise. Right?
Well, I would also accuse you of the same thing, and here's why. Because you're speaking of the law, which is Old Testament. But if you're saying you want to stick with the New Testament, then you are tying my hands to then go back and look at the purpose.
Okay,
Yeah,
did anybody else catch that?
Yeah, actually, I was about to say, no, from Matthew, unfortunately, you are tying the man's hands.
Okay, tell me how.
If you're asking someone to answer a question that covers the entire Bible, because we're talking about...
It doesn't at all.
It does, though, because is Jesus not talked about, and is his revelation not started in the Old Testament?
That is completely debatable and separate from the question that I asked, because I'm not talking about Jesus in general. I'm asking about what he taught in the New Testament and what Paul taught in the New Testament. And I'm saying there's a contradiction between these two things. This person is saying all you have to do is confess that Jesus is Lord. This person is saying many people will come to me on that day saying, Lord, Lord, and they will be rejected. I'm saying these two things can't be true at the same time. So what does that have to do with the Old Testament?
Letting him find or expound on how or where, I don't know what he's going to get to, but where that is relevant in the Old Testament. Because you
didn't answer my question. What does that have to do with the Old Testament?
The books are the theory I think that he was about to flesh out is that it's all connected. It's all related. And
I'm not denying him that. I'm not saying that it's not all related or that there's nothing that he could say about the Old Testament that will be relevant to this topic. What I'm saying is the question that I'm asking is why these two things contradict each other and how do we make sense of this? Right. And I even let him go to the Old Testament because I said, look, I'm not trying to tie your hands.
If he's trying to make sense out of it and the way he makes sense out of it, even if it doesn't make sense to me through the Old Testament.
I didn't tie his hands, though. I said you can go to the Old Testament, but I said I want the focus to be on this contradiction in the New Testament. What ends up happening here is like a 2-hour attempt at a sermon on the Old Testament.
Exactly.
And he never actually answers the question of why these two things contradict.
These are facts. But part of that reason is because you never gave him the moment. You never gave him the time because you kept, we'll say it later, because I think he mentions you go on to question 2, 3, and 4, and now we've lost question 1.
And why did I do that?
Clint pointed it.
Why did I do that?
I don't know why you did it, but I can tell
I explained it explicitly. I explained explicitly why I did that.
I'm assuming you would. Well, why? Tell us why.
Because he's slipping in. He's slipping in these things that are huge, momentous statements that he's making. He's not unpacking them at all. There's a way to answer a question so that the person you're talking to understands what you're saying. If I tell you something that you don't understand and use that as a foundation to explain something else, I'm not going to understand any of it because you never unpack that foundational thing.
Exactly.
And so when he's breezing past it, trying to build on it without unpacking it, I'm calling him back and saying, unpack this. And I said that to him. And then he goes on to continue just like you're doing. He goes on to continue saying, oh, well, you can't ask me the second question, third question, fourth question. I'm like, did you listen to anything I just said when I explained why I need to do that? And he was like, no, I kind of tuned you out. And that's when I kicked him because I'm not going to sit here and talk to somebody who's not listening to me. But the whole thing, the reason why I have to go back and stop him from continuing with interjections is because he's saying something like, they had the Israelites of the Old Testament were saved through Jesus, even though Jesus had not been born yet. He didn't say all this. He just said they're saved through Jesus. And he goes on to try and use that as a foundation to explain other things. Like, well, you need to go back and explain how they're saved by something that hasn't happened yet.
Well, it sounded like you were challenging him and then he was trying to challenge you. And that's where the breakdown.
That part is interesting. Yeah. So I'll go to that part real quick because the whole thing breaks down because he disagrees with the Christian scholars on what intentional and unintentional sin is. In his view, unintentional sin means that you did it by accident or that you didn't mean to do it, like literally unintentional. In the scripture, that's not what unintentional sin means. Unintentional sin means sin that you did due to a human weakness. Intentional sin in the scripture is when you sin with a high hand, when you are arrogant in your sinning, when you despise the word of God, when God sets out these. It's the difference between you and Desmond getting in a fight and you accidentally unaliving him and you being a serial killer. It's the difference between you doing something like you got angry. You didn't necessarily set out to break God's law, but you were angry. And in your anger, you exceeded the limits of the law. You took his life. I'm not saying you accidentally killed him. I'm saying when you killed him, it wasn't something that was premeditated. It wasn't something that you were doing to challenge God. That's an unintentional sin in the scripture. An intentional sin in the scripture is when you are setting out to intentionally break God's law. Whatever God said, I'm going to do the opposite. It's that distinction is the difference. And the breakdown that we have is that maybe he was unaware of this. But instead of asking me where I got it from, he assumed you're just reading your own Muslim interpretation into the text. I'm like, no, that's not true because that's not even the Islamic concept of sin.
And
But
I never want to intentionally sin. So that's part of the reason why I don't fight. Because I was watching some fights over the weekend with Andrew Tate, and I whoop him. Oh God, I will whoop him. I saw what he did, and I would probably accidentally unalive this guy, bro. Like he can't whoop me. If he was a 4-time kickboxing world champion, wherever he
you
was,
saying you could
I
take
should
Andrew
be.
Tate in the octagon?
From what I saw, from what I saw, he can't whoop me. If I owed him money, I would not pay him. I would not pay him. He can't whoop me. I'm not paying him.
Oh
But
my goodness.
Paul Henderson says Christ saves, period. If you ask, it's who he is, the truth. And I think he was responding, helping out the gentleman you were debating with.
Maybe he was.
I got it right, Paul. Feel free to ask your question if I misinterpreted that.
Yeah, Paul. You this I'm not really. Yeah, I'm not really here to debate Christianity with anybody today. If you want to have a discussion about the truth of Christianity, feel free to check out my channel. I go live, and that's when I do that. But here today on Malachi's channel, I don't want to. My intention is not to challenge Christianity today. We're just looking at the breakdown and conversation and using some religious stuff as an example.
And
But yeah.
So back to
can't whoop me either. And I believe Clint, because Clint is a bad man. He slapped me.
I mean, just look at that beard. just look at the beard.
He slapped me in the 7th grade. Like he said, what did the 5 fingers say to the face? And I was like, huh? And he goes, slap. I couldn't believe it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
actually saw one of the greatest slaps by Clint. He literally had to go upstairs to slap the dude because the dude was so tall. This dude jumps in the air, slaps a person I won't name for the sake of anonymity. Slaps the fire out of this guy.
I know he
midair.
slapped because he slapped me.
Oh my goodness.
Now, hearing your name on the intercom 5-0 yesterday, I never heard that. I don't know about that. I never heard them call your name on the intercom. And I sat right by the intercom. I never heard
Man.
Going 5-0. But I know you
You
slapped.
guys are funny.
He put in work on that wrestling field.
Oh, I forgot Clint wrestled. Yeah, he was. He was out there doing work.
But wasn't Clint like 100 pounds? He wrestling.
Bro, Clint's literally like half your size. Or he was. I say it today, but yeah. In middle school, high school, he was literally like half your size.
That's what I'm telling you. He jumped and slapped this dude in the face. He couldn't reach his face.
I don't know. Ain't no hole in Clint. Ain't no hole in Clint. He's definitely I vouch for that.
So much.
I'm like, do you know what kind of crazy animal you got to be to slap me? Like, joke or no joke. That was bravery, if not stupidity. Like, man, that boy, he got it, man. He got a heart.
Oh man, those are good times. But yeah, let's get into this breakdown because that's exactly what I think
allow me that
illustrates your point.
You're simply saying it's almost like let's say the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution it is written, and these are the bylaws that can't be changed. It cannot be revised unless you go through a process and so forth and so on. I'm trying to lay the foundation of why the law came in, the purpose for it.
You know what the purpose of the law is. Is that what you're going to show me?
Yeah,
it's either
more
is
or
or
less,
it's
yes.
not.
And then
It kind of is because I'm just asking if that's what you're going to you or tell me.
It breaks down. I'm telling you, bro. It breaks down because both of you guys aren't listening to each other. You're just trying to get your points across.
No. Let's back up. Let's back up because how did this start? If we go back to the very beginning, this all started because I did a whole stream that day. I was up there for 2 hours. He came in for 5 minutes and said at the very end, but without hearing any of the arguments that I made, that I was at a bogus conclusion. And I called him on that. And that's why he came on and said, you know what, you're right. He started that, you're right. I didn't listen. And I only heard a couple minutes. And that's why I said what I said. Right.
That's my point.
And let me finish. Because you're trying to lump me into that category too. And that's not what happened. Because he came on. I gave him the chance. He said, this is out of his mouth. He's like, since you're saying that Christians can't answer or won't answer, you can ask me any questions and I will answer it. He's offering to answer the question that I had. And so I present the question and he wants to go and talk about something else. So it's not about me not listening to him. It's about me trying to hold him to his word to answer the question that I asked.
Okay. I guess my question is, at the point where he tries to explain and wants to use whatever evidence.
But here's the thing, so because without watching the whole video, I'll just explain to you quickly. What he wants to do, or in his words, is lay the foundation of the purpose of the law. I've heard this a million times, and so I asked him. That's really where we're at right now in the video. I said, "Are you going to tell me that the purpose of the law was to show us that we need a savior?"
And eventually he says yes.
Eventually he says yes. Right? You don't have the answers, wait. Eventually he says yes, and I said, okay, well, we can move past that because I'm familiar with it and I'm granting it to you. I'm granting it to you so we can get to the answer. And that's not good enough for him. He wants to go back and go deeper and show me in the text why he believes that, which is irrelevant to the question that I asked. If you want to go back and explain that we needed the law to show that we needed a savior, I'm saying, okay, I understand that. Granted, let's move forward. And he's like, no. We can't move forward until I go back and show you in the text that this is true, which doesn't make sense if your goal is to answer the question that I asked.
Fair enough. Given that whole context, I see how he's swaying away. I guess it seems like the only way to what ends up transpiring when someone doesn't relent is this viral, just like back and forth uselessness of tension because nothing's getting done. And so I guess all that's exactly I want to point out is like the best way for conversations to stop breaking down is we need to listen to each other better and be a little more patient with our responses.
I think I was pretty patient until I started seeing the pattern repeat itself. And then I took the kitty gloves off. And
you did a good job, but I will say, Matt, with all due respect, and I love you, brother, like I don't think you ever relented. I think you were hot from the start, and you tried to be you did a great job of giving him respect, giving him the space to speak. But at the point where you realized he was a bit slower than most, not slower than most, but dodging.
I don't think he was that slow. I think he was intentionally avoiding. He was in identity protection mode. And when people are in identity protection mode, reason goes out the window.
But what did you say? At the point where you saw he was exactly in reason protection mode or identity protection mode.
Yeah.
At that point, the conversation just became sad.
It did become sad. I'm not going to go through all that today, but yeah, I do want to go to this one point Malachi was talking about though, because this is, I think, okay, let me just show you this one part real quick, because this will wrap everything up perfectly. And you can literally just see why this was never going to go any further. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's about, oh, here we go. Perfect.
What it was intentional or unintentional. What I'm doing is I'm showing you exactly what I did.
No, I missed the part where you said I was right. Say that part again. You said I'm giving a scholarly example.
I think I've said that twice now.
And in that,
I think I've said that twice now.
See,
I am
just fucking with him.
I said that you've given a scholarly definition of it, and I am trying to show you.
No. You're ahead of it again. And in that,
go back and replay it because you're asking me now to repeat something that I
don't worry. Don't worry. We will definitely be replaying that. Don't worry.
So you are given again
my definition. Because you can't disagree with my definition and then go on to show me an application of the word without giving a definition.
You are putting your Islamic definition.
My Islamic definition? We're back on that again? I thought you just said it was scholarly. Run that back.
I am showing you the example. You are given, if you will, a scholarly definition of it. To say sin is this or unintentional is this, and I'm saying, okay, yes, you're correct in that.
Damn. Forgive my French. You're still muted.
My bad. You're right. I'm muted. So we were talking about the difference between intentional and unintentional sin. And from the beginning, he accused my definition of being some Islamic projection onto the text. And so I go back and show him in the commentaries, the biblical commentaries, where it's literally saying exactly what I told him. And at first he's trying to avoid that, like the play's like, no, don't go to the commentaries. Listen, you're talking to me, right? You're asking me I'm like, well, look, you're accusing me of it being Islamic. Then you need to look and face reality when you see that my source is not Islam, but it's your own commentaries, right? And he refused to do that. Look where we are in the video. We're over an hour into the video. He's been debating this point since about 30 minutes in. He spent 30 minutes calling this Islamic, and then he finally says that what I gave him was the scholarly example and that it was true and that I was right? And then he goes right back to calling it Islamic. And so you kind of see, like, well, at least I saw from that, there was never going to be any fruitful conversation here, because this is somebody who, I mean, no, nothing personal against him, but this is an example of someone not being able to accept when they're wrong, right? If you are shown with evidence that I had something wrong, you should be able to say, like, all right, I was wrong. No big deal. Move on. Let's move on. But instead, we spent so long going back over the same thing and him having to contort his body to try and say both, that it's Islamic and it's correct, it's scholarly, which doesn't make any sense, right? So this is where you can clearly see this isn't about truth anymore. This is about his identity. This is about him not being able to concede a point because he's now trying to build up a shelter, which should not be the way to approach this topic. But unfortunately, I think it's a very human thing to do, is to go into the shell when something that you hold to be true is shown to be false.
So when people are like holding on to their, I guess they turn their beliefs into their identity, how would you overcome that? Or is that even a battle that's even worth fighting?
It's absolutely worth fighting, but how to overcome it, I don't know, because I was blessed and fortunate enough to. What do you say?
I think I might be able to take this one since I'm living it.
Go for it.
Malachi, humility, bro. There's been many times, unfortunately, I can't stand Matthew a lot of times, but if he speaks truth, and it might take me 20 minutes to get around to it, at a point I had to say, that makes sense. You might be right on that. And if
Desmond does do that, it just takes him forever. Just like this guy, it takes him forever to say, "All right, you're right. I was wrong."
The only way you get to that point is you gotta humble yourself and really like eat this pill of like, okay, let me get out of my head or get out of like my worldview and like strip my brain and think a little more universal or a little more openly. And I think eventually if people just take the time, it's just time. We rush and we get defensive, like Clint said earlier, and we don't take the time to like consider and humble ourselves. I think that's all it takes.
Yeah. Honestly, here,
and if you're
let me just show y'all real quick.
It's a core idea so far. This is not a debate. It's just a conversation about how discussions break down. So we're just talking about communication patterns, and we're not attacking beliefs.
Yeah. Because this is another clear example. This is basically the rest of that stream before he came on. I separated into another video. But this is a prime example right here. I don't know how well y'all can see it. Let me zoom in. Oops, I went too far. Where am I trying to go? Here we go. Can y'all see that? kind of. You don't have to read everything, but this person is Amelia A 2025, and she says, we can answer all your questions, but sadly Muslims don't really look for answers. It's a false intention on their part, blah 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 blah, right? And my first response to her was that in the time it took you to type that, you could have just typed the answer to either of the questions I showed in this video. Then at the very least, even if you think I'm some insincere tire kicker, those who are sincere would see the answer and know the truth. And she goes on for another, let me see, how many comments do we have here? It's a lot. It's like 17 comments. And she never answers. She never wants to give the single answer. At this point, she's still commenting, trying to turn the tables and try and put me on the spot. And I'm like, this is the point, right? I have no motivation to entertain any of your questions because you're just proving my point that you won't answer any questions, right? One guy I did, he asked some questions. He tried to flip the tables. And just because I was tired of telling people over and over again that I wasn't going to, for him, I did. I answered this question. I was like, you see how easy that is to answer a question when it's posed? Now it's your turn. Answer any of the questions that I asked in the video. Nothing. And there's like over 100 comments here. And none of them are an answer. There's one. I'm going to call out this one because I like this guy. This guy, although we disagree on a lot, he's a Christian. I'm a Muslim. He actually attempts to answer the question. He actually engages with the text that I'm asking about, and he's actually trying to answer. Here he is right here. Ivan Eck, H-A-U. I think he's an older guy too, so that tells you a lot. And he actually ended up subscribing to the channel, so shout out to him. But look at this. He actually engages with the text. He goes into what Jesus says in Matthew 5. Till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. And he goes on to try and clarify where he doesn't think there's a distinction between this and Paul, right? And we go back and forth for a little bit. But this is the only person out of all these people who commented. I don't know exactly how many there are. I know there's hundreds of comments here. And only one person here was actually engaging with the text and trying to answer. And this is where the issue is that people just come in. And this is the other thing. 99% of the Christians responding here did not even watch the video. They didn't even watch. They couldn't even tell you what the questions I asked were because they didn't watch the video. They just came in just like the guy who I had the debate with, came in, saw the title of the video, and started arguing. This one, the first one I showed you, we can answer all your questions. She didn't watch the video. I tested her on it. She had no idea what the questions were, but she's sitting here telling me we can answer all your questions, and never does. So this is what I'm talking about. And this, again, not about Christians, not about Christianity, but we're using them as an example right now. This is an issue. If you're not even going to listen to the question, but you're going to respond, what does that tell you? It's not about the truth. It's not about the question. It's just about your identity. You feel attacked, and so you have to say something. But you didn't even listen to what was said, right? It just becomes a turf war. And that's not the way to have any type of understanding or growth or to even, let's say I'm actually trying to investigate Christianity because I think it could be true, but I don't know. That's not where I am in my journey, but let's say I was there in my journey, or I was still there in my journey.
Don't worry, we'll get you. You're coming around. Getting closer. You're getting closer every day. I can hear you.
Not at this rate. Not the way they refuse to answer a question. They are pushing me further and further away, except for that one guy, Ivan. Shout out to Ivan. But yeah, if I were in that position where I really needed someone to help God, let's say I was Christian. Let's say it's Desmond, and he's kind of like, he was raised Christian. He has questions. I've raised some questions for him. And he's like, well, there's got to be answers to this. And he goes and asks these questions, and this is what he's met with. Why would that give you any more confidence in this religion if no one can answer a question? Right? Or let's take religion out of it, because again, I don't want to make this about Christianity. If this is about, let's say you have somebody who you want to marry, and something happens where now you have questions, and you're like,
body count. I want to know your body.
sure. Let's say it's the body count. Let's say, hey, I'm a little skeptical. Some people have been talking, and I just want to hear from your mouth. What kind of body count are we talking about here? And they refuse to answer the question. They go about everything else, whether it's changing the topic, trying to flip it on you, getting defensive, but they refuse to answer the question. Is that going to make you more confident in marrying this person or less confident? That, I think, is the issue. One pause real quick. Clint Page said, a big thing about the Bible and Christianity is discernment. Many people in the Bible are followers of God or Christ, but they're still man. Paul says a lot that contradicted others, but that doesn't mean his life shouldn't be studied. That doesn't mean every word he spoke was God's word. David, too, was called a man after God's own heart, but he also fell to lust. Same thing with Solomon being the most wise, yet falling to his own arrogance. Man, I love Clint. I can't wait to get Clint back on the channel again. He came up one time when we were on TikTok, but he's someone I always enjoy talking to about this stuff because his perspective always catches me off guard, which is so refreshing. I love hearing things that I don't hear 100 times a day.
I like the fact that he cares about ancient history because I feel like that's where the truth, not the truth, but part of the answers to this whole human experiment and why we're here. We can't ignore what
100%. 100%.
Like Clint be slapping shit. That's all I like.
But yeah, so that to me, I think, is the most glaring issue in communicating, whether that's in religion, whether that's in relationships, whether that's in your job, whether that's in politics, right? When you want to examine the information and make sense of it, and the other person who holds to a particular position that you're critiquing is doing everything in their power to avoid giving you an answer, it creates distrust, and it cripples people. It cripples people who are part of that tribal group that you're throwing up. You're you're circling the wagons, right? You're getting into your defensive position. And so it encourages others to come and hunker down with you instead of actually questioning, why do I believe this? Right? When you see everyone else acting a certain way, there's a psychological thing there. It's a lot of us who, in our immediate circle, aren't like that, and I think that's probably why we relate to one another so easily. But we are not the norm. Most people do fall victim to peer pressure. They are easily swayed by groupthink, and we are too, just to a lesser degree, right? So, if we examine our thoughts, we'll start to notice some of that as well.
So what I'm hearing is it kind of sounds like confidence replaces clarity. That sounds like that's what you're bumping into a lot.
A lot. Confidence in the wrong people, right? The I don't want to insult anybody, but we've all heard the confidently wrong or confidently stupid. Go ahead.
Insult. You good, man?
No, I'm not calling anybody names, but we've all met somebody like that, someone who's confidently wrong or confidently stupid. And there's a long history of philosophers who point out this correlation between being loud and being wrong. And unfortunately, that is where the vast majority of people land on the spectrum. Is the biggest part that's in the middle is loud and wrong. And so for someone trying to find the truth, you kind of have to separate the wheat from the chaff, right? Because just because they're loud doesn't mean that they're wrong. So you kind of have to dig into it, like we try to do, and actually look at the content, look at the substance, and make sense of it. If it doesn't make sense, and you try and give someone the chance to make it make sense and they can't, then I think, to me, that's the answer. The answer is you don't have an answer. The answer is that this doesn't make sense. That's why you can't make sense of it. And so I would move on to the next thing, whatever that is.
But don't we have to be loud, especially if we want people to follow us and hear us? Because the
I,
people that you're combating against, those people who you think are confidently wrong, that's who's winning the battle.
You
They're
know, that's a
loud, they're out in
fucking
front,
good question.
like they're loud, they're out in front, they uh they're confident, they're just
Muhammad,
beating
before,
that drum, they're screaming on their microphone, and people follow them. And people, quote unquote, who may be more knowledgeable, who aren't as loud, nobody cares. No one cares if you're right. If I hear a different message over and over again, because
yeah,
facts
I think
at
that's a
some
good
point don't
point.
even matter.
Um, well, for starters, that's why I started my channel, because I was like, well, let me get louder, right? Let me get my voice out there and get heard. And that's why, with people like who we were just looking at, that's why I, you know, deal with them the way that I deal with them, is to kind of make an example. Because if you compare that conversation, Desmond, with the conversation we had with Brandon and Brother Tremaine, it's like night and day. I think you would agree with that. Because they came on and they engaged and dealt with the issues that we were raising, or that, were presented to them. They didn't try and deflect. They didn't try and run. They didn't try and change the subject. And that is how conversations go forward, right? Even though we haven't finished our conversation with them, I actually wanted you
speaking of that,
to.
he called me a few days ago. I think he was ready to come back on. Actually,
Perfect. Let's set that up. Because I was just about to ask. I hope his mother's doing better now.
Yeah, he hit
But
me
yeah,
up twice, so I need to call him back.
please do. But yeah, that conversation compared to this one is like night and day, because they were able to have a conversation. The conversation that I had with Ivan in the comments, compared to, because I try and reply to everybody, compared to the other ones that I've had in here, even the longer ones, it's night and day. The conversation moves forward. It may come to a stopping point. We may not come to agree on the first conversation, but at the very least, it allows a change in perspective. It allows for new information to come out, a new way of looking at things, and trying to make sense of it, right? Clint says, on that same note, when someone trips up, they're more likely to follow the quiet one whose silent actions help them in their time of need. That's true. And they'll probably follow them much more wholeheartedly. Yeah, absolutely. That was the other thing I was going to get to. Thank you for reminding me, actually. Is that it's not up to us to determine who's going to get it and who's not going to get it. We do have to get louder, like you were saying. We do have to put our voice out there and be heard. We don't have to be as ostentatious or as obstinate or as obnoxious as we see other people being, but we do need to get our voice out there and start speaking. And then the ones who are searching for truth and for answers, Lord willing, they will find you. But the ones who are looking for protection of their identity, that's what they're going to seek out. It doesn't matter if it's quiet or loud. They're going to look for someone who's protecting their identity, and they're going to hunker down with them. So that's something that we don't have control over. What we do have control over, like you said, is speaking up. And so, yeah, I agree. We do need to raise our voices and be heard. But at the same time, we can't look at the outcome and grade our efforts based off of the outcome. Because if we want to stay on the religious subject, look at Noah, right? Noah was preaching about the flood for hundreds of years, literally hundreds of years, if you accept the narrative, right? And yet only a handful of people were on that boat. We don't even live for hundreds of years. We got 70 years. Yeah, I don't know if you can imagine preaching that a flood was going to come for just 10 years, right? And then when the flood actually does come, one person listened to you. But that was the reality, right? It doesn't mean he was wrong. It doesn't mean you're wrong. And it doesn't mean that you didn't do enough. It just means that you doing your job is you going out and speaking up, spreading the message.
Noah didn't have no hoes. That's why they didn't listen to him. Like, he had some hoes. They had like some chicks with him, spreading the message, twerking, singing, dancing while he's preaching the flood. I bet you that boat would have been packed.
And it probably would have gone down in the flood as well, because that's kind of what got them in trouble.
If he had some weed on the boat, some whatever little party favors on the boat, I promise you that boat would be packed. But that's what I mean by being loud. The people who were either preaching against getting on the flood or who was ignoring it, they had all the hoes. That's why people were listening to them. They had all the little conveniences all the little distractions that people want.
That's also why they drowned.
I don't know what the answer is, but I know we got to meet people where they are if we really want.
I think we do need to meet people where they are, and I think that means we have to actually go and enter spaces where they are. I don't think that means we have to join them in their activities. That's why I have a TikTok now. I would have never thought, like a year ago, if you had told me I was going to have a TikTok, I would have laughed at you. But I have a TikTok now because a lot of people are on TikTok, and so I have to go where those people are in order to be heard. Clint said,
we should do an episode from the strip club. That'll break it.
I'm not going that far, but you knock yourself out.
You want to get the message out? That's how you do it.
Clint said, I just cited Paul's contradictory, but he actually had a good word on this in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Let's actually check it out. I want to see what he said, because I'll be the first person to admit I don't disagree with everything Paul says.
Why you look that up? Why would you be so afraid to preach the good news of Islam at the strip club?
When did I say I would be afraid?
I thought you said you wouldn't go.
Because I wouldn't go, that means I'm afraid to go?
According to
gives you reservations ministering at the
I can't hear you talking to the mic.
I was just wondering what would give you reservations for ministering at a titty bar?
Because it's haram.
All right.
Is that good enough? Is that enough of a reason?
For Malachi's audience, what is haram?
Haram means forbidden. It means God said don't do that. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 13.
How he avoids the question.
So God doesn't want people going to the titty bar? Wow.
Yeah, no, he doesn't allow. Does
it say that exclusively, or is that just how we interpret it?
Well, he gives explicit. The Bible says that he did, Clint, but then it comes down to whether or not you believe everything in the Bible is true. And the Bible also says that Noah was a drunk. I don't believe that either.
He got drunk and his thing fell out.
What? You're thinking about Lot, I think. When he got it on with his daughters.
Pause.
Nah, he got drunk when they got off the boat, and then one of his kids, Ham, I think, the curse of Ham, he saw him explode.
Oh, right.
And then his daughter covered him up, where the other son looked at him and I guess laughed.
All right, so here's the chapter he was talking about. It's only 13 verses long. Let's take a second and see what we're talking about here. If I speak in the tongues of... Huh?
I was just reading out loud. Go for it.
Okay. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a ringing gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have absolute faith so as to move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and exult in the surrender of my body, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. We all know this part. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no account of wrongs.
Not sure.
Love takes no pleasure in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be restrained. Where there is knowledge, it will be dismissed. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial passes away. I like that part right there. When the perfect comes, the partial passes away. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I set aside childish ways. We should probably do an episode on that right there. But
Man, I completely agree.
now we see but a dim reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And
That's
now
good.
these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
Oh, we got a question. Okay. Jody Meach, how do you handle your girl in relationships? Okay, this is my expertise. Thank you for asking. Well, I would need really a specific question like it's, but to answer your question generally, I handle my girl with respect. I'm saying, whatever that means to you, you want to respect your girl. But if you have like a more specific question, I can probably answer that better.
Make sure she
I'll
respects
give you
your
a second.
backhand.
But just in a nutshell, you want to be nice, you want to be polite, you want to be respectful, but you don't want to be pushed over. You don't want to be, you don't want to be foolish. But if there's like a situation that you have going on, I can probably answer that better than just a general answer.
Maybe she's out of control.
So if she's out of control,
Yeah. Until
oh,
he gives us a
well,
specific situation. Let's just say the relationship is like she just she seems out of it, not listening.
what do you mean by out of it?
Like her mind is scattered. She seems all over the place. Her emotions are frantic. She's really emotional, moody.
So you mean she's a woman?
Yeah, I'm like, what's the problem? I'm listening. What's the problem? Like that's how they come. That's
Yeah.
factory setting.
Unless you like men, get used to it. Oh,
Yeah, like that's the factory setting. That ain't gonna change with a woman. You may get more or less in certain situations, but that's how they come fresh off the factory line.
And here am I thinking I'm giving you the worst case scenario.
oh man.
I didn't hear that last part. It was a little muffled.
Yeah, you do
Said
sound
I was
muffled.
giving you the worst case scenario.
No, that is not the worst case scenario. I can think of a lot of worst case scenarios.
Not for Desmond, man. Desmond, he's like, emotions? All right, I'm out.
I ain't got time for your pre-menopause.
It's
Or
called
what
the
if,
luteal phase.
what if she's in perimenopause? I dealt with that before.
Oof.
What does that even mean?
It's just a step right before menopause.
Um,
It's like your body's preparing for menopause.
Yeah. The going out of business sale, I like to call it.
Oh my god.
Oh man. All right. How long we been in here?
Man, we were
1 hour,
supposed to be
34
on here
minutes.
for an hour. You guys got some overtime.
Yeah. All right. How y'all want to wrap this up?
Okay.
You wrap up with a quick corporate meditation, a few deep breaths.
I guess
Say corporate meditation.
Thank
I
you for
guess
your
to
time,
wrap
bro.
this up, right? Because the whole
Yeah.
purpose of this stream was people often think that they're answering questions when they're really just protecting their identity.
Mm-hmm.
And we also wanted to talk about how this is a conversation about how discussions break down. I guess to kind of go in closing, how do we stay honest when question threatens something that we care about?
Well, one thing I do want to make sure I clarify from what I've been observing is that sincerity doesn't guarantee coherence. Even with the guy I showed you who was actually sincere, he still was wrong. Like, not just from a I disagree with him standpoint, but just from a logical examination of what he was saying. There was still plenty of flaws in his reasoning. But he was sincere. So I don't think most people avoid questions because they're dishonest. I think they can overlap a lot. You can be dishonest and avoid questions, but I don't think it's a direct result of that. I think they avoid questions because they've never examined those questions. Just like we saw, I mean, I analyze, y'all probably know this by now, I analyze very specific details, like very minute details about a person when I'm conversing with them. You're muted, Desmond. Bro, you're muted. You trying to say something?
Looks like it.
Oh, now he seems frozen. Your mic is off.
My
if you
bad.
can hear me.
It was
There you go.
muted.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I said that is very well said. It needs
Yeah.
to be said.
But if you watch that video with that guy I was talking to very carefully, everything makes perfect sense. Like, you can just draw a complete line following and know where he was going before we even got to the end. You can already know how it was going to end before it started, because he starts by trying to back out, and he literally says, I've never heard this particular contention that you're bringing to me. So right at the very beginning, he's basically telling you, I'm not prepared. I'm not equipped to deal with this. And so wherever he goes from there is in response to him being unequipped to deal with this. And that's why I say, like, you can be sincere and still be wrong. He could have been sincere. He wasn't, but he could have been sincere. And we still would have ended up at the same place at the end, because he wasn't equipped. He had never even thought about this before. And that's actually why I came up with this one, because for me, I enjoy posing questions to people that they haven't heard before, because I don't want a script from you when you answer. And that's exactly what he tried to fall back on, was his script, even though it was irrelevant to what I asked. So, yeah, good faith doesn't replace good reasoning. I definitely want to make sure that is clarified. But at the same time, faith doesn't exempt beliefs from explanation, right? Just because you have faith, it doesn't mean that that anybody else is going to be convinced by that, or that they should be convinced by that, or that you should be convinced by that. If you don't have reasoning, if you don't have akal to go along with your knuckle, then it puts all beliefs, whether it's religious or ideological, political, whatever it is, it put all beliefs on the same equal footing. You can't place one above the other, because it's all just, I just believe it because I believe, I have faith in it, right? There has to be a way of distinguishing between them.
But when you ask a question, right?
Yeah.
People don't like saying, I don't know.
They don't.
They want to give you an answer.
They don't like saying, I don't know. They perceive it as weakness. Well, to be fair, when you have apologist in your name, it's a bad look to say, I don't know. But then just take apologist out of your name. Like, look, if you haven't examined this thing, stop apologizing for it. Stop trying to defend something that you yourself don't understand. That, to me, that's easy. It's an easy fix. But again, we go back into the identity thing. That's who they see themselves as. Is if you don't know who you are outside of being Christian, then of course you're going to fight tooth and nail to preserve your illusion that Christianity makes sense, right? Or anything. Like I said, I'm not picking on Christianity. Anything. If I don't know why Islam is true, but I just have faith in it, and I don't know who I am outside of being a Muslim, yeah, I will fight tooth and nail to try and preserve the illusion that Islam is true. The truth of it is separate from your ability to arrive at the truth of it.
And I guess what I would want everyone to take away from this is it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Every confident answer is not an actual answer.
Yeah.
And listening matters more than winning.
Yeah. 100%.
Beliefs don't have to be so fragile.
They don't. If you start from first principles, they won't be. One last point I'll make before getting out of here. There was one person in the comments. I forget his name. I'm going to pick on you, brother. Don't be mad.
Yeah.
Paul Henderson. Paul
On
Henderson.
your head, Paul.
He nothing wrong with wanting to, because he was asking questions and he seemed like he was trying to dig into it. And I'm sorry that this wasn't the stream where I could do that with you, brother. But I do take note of like how he did get a bit defensive. Not a lot, like definitely not a lot. Like I said, not picking on him, but there was a little bit of defensiveness coming from him, right? And that, I think, is a good little snapshot of what we're talking about here, right? It's natural to get, I don't want to call it emotional, but that's kind of what it is, right? It's natural to get emotional about these things that our hearts are close to. But even in a space where no one is being attacked, where you're not being asked to explain anything, it's hard to resist that temptation to defend those things that we love. So that, I think, is the first step to getting to that point where you are okay with saying, I don't know, where you are okay with listening and hearing the other side, is acknowledging, I feel a certain way about this, and it's okay for me to feel that way, but I'm not going to let these feelings dictate how I respond here. So it's the difference between reacting and responding. So thank you, Paul, for letting me use you as an example. Hope you don't mind. But yeah, that's the last thing I'm going to say on it.
And next time you come on stream, we got to do this at a booty club. Go get up.
You won't get me in there, man. You won't get me.
Well, you can be in the parking lot. Ain't nothing haram about that. You can be in the parking lot. We'll be on the inside. We'll stream like that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness.
So that way we can get the people. You know what I'm saying?
Meet people where they at, huh?
So, yeah, we meet them where they at. And they come outside for the food truck. That's when we gonna run up on them.
Oh yeah, I'll catch him at the food
even
truck.
Jesus was going to the brothels to minister.
Yeah, Clint did mention that, yeah. All right, gentlemen. Anything else? Anybody else wanted to add?
Please tell them how they can find you.
Oh, thank you. You guys can find me on YouTube at Akal and Nakal. I'll try and put a link or share a link in the comments. Actually, I can do that right now, can't I? Wait, will it go to everybody? We'll see. Let's do at Akal and Nakal. That's my YouTube handle. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and I think the handle for all three of those is Akal and Nakal Podcast. I don't know. We'll get some links out there. If you just go and search for Akal and Nakal, we'll likely come up. We're just getting started. We're still a baby channel. But this is some of the stuff that we like to tackle, is these discussions, those difficult questions. And I don't always pick on Christianity. Like I said, I kind of focus on Christianity because, like it or hate it, you guys are the ones I care most about saving. You guys are closer to my heart. But, at the same time, it gets uncomfortable in there. And what was I saying? Oh, we have these tough conversations. So if you are interested, and also if you want to ask questions about Islam, if you want to put me on the hot seat, we have opportunities for that as well. You want to see why I believe what I believe and make sure I'm not a hypocrite, I welcome it. So yeah, anybody interested in having these types of conversations, that's where you can find us.
And again, I appreciate you coming on, taking time, hanging out
My
with us
pleasure.
on the Lift channel. And
Anytime.
again, man, you are always welcome whenever you have time.
We'll be going live this Sunday, inshallah. Well, I will. If you want to join, just let me know or just pop up. I don't even care if you give me a heads up. If you pop up, I'll bring you on stage.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
All right, brothers.
Peace, boys.
All right, so all I say, assalamu alaikum, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.